Namaskar. In today's edition, I'd like to share my thoughts, something that I find is totally full of contradictions. Some development, rather two developments, how they are contradictory to each other, and not only contradictory to each other, full of also contradictions, and these sorts of contradictions continue to happen in this country. They were happening before, they are now happening despite many such expectations that things would be changing under the present political regime, but nothing much seems to have happened in that regard, and these sort of things will also continue in future. And let me explain what I mean by this. You know that these days in this OTT platform Netflix, there is a serial on that Kandahar hijacking, which is perhaps one of the most shameful episodes in India's history as an independent nation, and the type of compromises we made, the type of literal surrendering that was done, and the manner in which it was done. So let's not go into those details. So in one way, if you look at it, it is a very praiseworthy attempt that somebody has captured that and is telling before the nation how the things happen. It is a praiseworthy attempt. There should not be any doubt on that. But the problem arises if you are reminding the nation of something what happened, so that it will give us enough lesson, and on the basis of this experience we will be preparing ourselves so that this sort of things would not be repeated in future. Then you must speak the truth. So what is or rather what has happened is this, the way this serial is projecting the developments, it has led many critics to point out that they were not projecting the truth. Why? Because these kidnappers or these people, they made our hostages. You know that how it was coming from Nepal and how it was allowed to leave from our Amritsar airport, where was the golden opportunity to catch them. But then anyway, they went to Pakistan. From there, reached there in Afghanistan. And who were these persons who did this, hijackers? We all know that they were in the Pakistanis, and they belong to Islamic fundamentalist organizations, and one of their main demands is that that guy, their leader who was here in our Tihar jail, had to be released, so that they would be releasing the plane with all the hostages. I'm not going into those details, that is not my idea. The point is, they were Islamic fundamentalists. They are hardcore terrorists, and that they were hardcore terrorists is known all over the world. Many of their organizations have been banned, not only by India but also by United States, by many other countries. But their names that they belong to are not being exposed because they belong to one particular religion. and here the religion happens to be Islam, and they say no, that was the truth because they were themselves had given, addressing each other in their pen names, and these are Hindu names. That is what the promoters or the makers of this serial are claiming, which many say is not true. And even if you are not projecting something, you are not talking of history, even if they use these pen names, at least somewhere you should have made it pretty clear that these are deliberate actions on their part to use the Hindu names to mislead the people. If that was true, and they were hardcore Muslim organizations representatives, but you didn't do that. Why? Because you are apprehensive in this country. What is happening is this: in this country, I'll give a number of instances when it gives rise to some sort of thinking that the Muslims are being projected unfairly, particular leaders are being projected unfairly, even their authors are being projected unfairly, quote unquote. When I am using the word unfairly, quote unquote, then they must be banned. They must not be shown that way. And if you are doing it, you have to ensure that these things do not happen. Then only this picture would be released. Then only this serial will be released. And obviously, the best way to avoid all these things is to distort history. It is not a fiction. My point is that this serial is not a fiction. You say that this is exactly what happened, that hijacking episode, if you are really showing it to the people in a film format, it's not exactly a fiction, it's a fact. But why such compromises in these facts? I think that is the question, whether this should have been allowed to be done and projected that way. I think that is the pertinent question. That is, as I said, you said that the two developments, this is one development. You judge yourself what I am trying to say. Here, every action or every decision has been taken to ensure that by so doing, and then when the government, when these complaints came, and the government really asked for some clarification whether it is true, because as I said, this is not a fiction, this is a real thing that happened, and then there are some questions. Then everybody talked of, this is against the freedom of expression in this country, freedom of thought. We are becoming under this particular Modi regime an authoritarian country. The government can't ask these sort of questions at all. So as I said, this is one way of putting things here. I'm told today, I believe this Netflix, that OTT which is showing this serial, some of its officials were summoned by the government of India, and apparently, I do not know exactly what transpired, and apparently the news is that these people are saying that they will be very careful in the future. But the point is that this basic democratic right to express one's own thing and thoughts must not be compromised. This is one way of this is one set of developments. What is the other set? That famous film actress Kangana Ranaut, She has become a MP. I am told she has made a movie on the emergency, and in that movie she is playing the role of our former Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi. That film has not been released. That film has not yet been technically approved or cleared by the censor board. But there are demands from many quarters, and particularly this have come from Punjab, that movie must be banned. Why? Because in that movie, apparently, Mrs. Indira Gandhi being shot down by her Sikh bodyguards is something that will disturb the communal harmony in the country. So demand from Punjab and the so-called left liberal these quarters, they are really demanding that movie must be banned. This must not be allowed by the censor board to be screened. I'm told that it is supposed to be released sometime in September, I think. What sort of double standard is this? In case of Kandahar hijacking, it is the freedom of press, freedom of expression. But here, what has happened to this freedom of expression and freedom of thoughts in case of Kangana Ranaut? The things will be banned, and you say that the movie is not going to be released. So this set of double standards, as I said, they are happening very well in the past. So you see that many books, little critical of Gandhi, or for that matter our Ambedkar, or for that matter anything pertaining to Islam, like that so many books have been banned. The Salman Rushdie's book was banned, and that how that Taslima Srin, that Bangladeshi writer, she has been living here in India, and in fact she was living first of all in Calcutta, but then the then communist government threw her away. I believe she lives these days here somewhere in Delhi. What was her crime? Because she had written a book which was critical of some of the Islamic practices. So these things will be banned, and these are the very people who say freedom of thought, freedom of expressions. They are at the forefront in demanding that these things should be banned, like they are talking of it now in case of this Kangana's forthcoming movie. But if the reverse happens, like people write many things critical of Hinduism in this country, they had written, or that famous painter, Muslim painter M.F. Hussain, the type of drawings, that type of paintings he had made, some of them are absolutely so tasteless and against our ethos. Like she had presented once drawn a painting by making Mother India naked and writing below Bharat Mata. Then many paintings. In one of the paintings, he projected Hanuman making love to Sita. And another thing, if I distinctly remember, one of those much discussed and debated and very controversial painting was that Ma Durga copulating with a lion, and what not, and then Saraswati, goddess Saraswati, and again naked and writing below Saraswati. And when really the Hindus protested, I think any Hindu or rather any person who believes in this concept of Sanatan Dharma would definitely react to it. And when they said that this thing is wrong and this should be banned, who are the people who are protecting and justifying and defending? These are the very people, and what were the things that were being talked about? Freedom of thought, freedom of expression. This is a democratic country. This is guaranteed under our constitution. So when things that you do not approve of, when things that would be projected to show our country in very negative lights, when things that only will be saying that, or rather making it appear that there cannot be a more cruel and unequal religion in this world like the Hinduism, and these things are perfect, because there comes this question of freedom of expression and freedom of thought. But anything slightly critical of say Islam, anything slightly being projected, or rather perceived, I think perceived is a better term, that our minorities, this or the other peoples, their sensitivities will be affected, then you say that must be banned. Why these contradictions? This is the point I was trying to make. In this country, such double standards. Anything anti-Hindu is your freedom of thought. Expressing anything anti-Hindu or projecting anything anti-Hindu is your freedom of expression and thought, guaranteed under Constitution of India. If anything critical, you see, the whole point is that nobody is saying that you campaign against some particular religion like Islam or Christianity, or some particular leaders. Nobody is talking of that. So I think, and this should not happen. But if this should not happen in this case, this should not happen in also other case. You cannot say that everything making say one Savarkar or one Golwalkar or one Narendra Modi, they were men of evils. If you project them, they are your freedom. That is your freedom of expression and freedom of thoughts. But anything about Sikh terrorist, anything about Islamic terrorism, anything about the discriminatory practices in other religion, you cannot. And anything against Indira Gandhi, Nehru, or for that matter, Ambedkar, as I said, I think once Mr. Hunsori, he written a book titled The False God, and it had something to do with Mr. Ambedkar. The country-wide agitation to ban that book. Why these double standards? Either you be very consistent that freedom of expression that should be applicable uniformly, or if you think that no freedom or no right is absolute and there has to be some control and restrictions, that also should be done uniformly, whether it pertains to Hindus or to Muslims or Christians or this leader or that leader or that school of thought or this school of thought. It should be totally applicable uniformly. But it is not happening even under this our Modi regime. As I said, it was not happening before, it is not even happening today, and if this thing continues, it will not happen also in future. And this is something we should not be proud of. I think it is high time to stop these double standards. Thank you for your patience.